Well, I have 7:30. I'll call the meeting to order. And first up is the Wallace Farm Wetland Permit.
I understand.
You can either place whichever you want to. There's a clicker in the front, and you can tell me if you need the plan set pulled up or some part of the application pulled up.
Yeah, I will need the plans, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
By the way.
In terms of a clicker, what kind of clicker?
If you press down and hold the top button, it'll create a little circle, and you can highlight something, or you can just click if you want to move through pages, I believe.
I miss the old days of paper. Anyway, we'll get through it. Thank you. Luke Hurley, BSC Group, here on behalf of Simon Balin, the applicant. This is an oldie but a goodie. This was permitted back in 2014. I feel like I want to get up and point at something. Does this have a pointer associated
It
with it?
does. So
that's-
hold
Is that what you're talking about? I don't want to burn your eyes out there when I do this. Close your eyes,
Yeah.
Jim.
Hit the screen, and a circle will
Sunglasses on.
appear.
Do I have to hold it?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
That way you
Right.
can highlight things.
I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Let me
Let's hold
zoom
off.
Back out.
Let's hold off on that for now. Anyway, we'll give it a little kind of refresh background. So again, this was permitted back in 2014 for what's there now on the screen. You folks are probably familiar with it. I'm fairly certain you got a copy of the application. So 2014, it was permitted for the roadway coming through off of Perkins Road. I'm sure you all know where this is. I-93 is to the east, Perkins Road is on the west. There are several of the condominium units already in place. The hotel is directly to the north. Just beyond that is the self-storage, and then the cigar shop, and then 28. So, as I say, you probably all know where this is. So, what was permitted back in 2014 was the whole project for the entire roadway length, 2 stream crossings, some other shrub, forested wetland complexes. We're going to have some impacts associated with it. It was all permitted. What happened was they had carried out a portion of the project, the first 2 phases, but the permit had actually expired in 2019. They didn't get an extension on it, and because of that, the remaining impacts that are left for phase 3, which is the remaining phase to be done, we had to reapply for those wetland impacts because they didn't. Had they gotten an extension in 2019, they would have had 5 years to carry out the rest of the impacts. That permit lapsed, so we went back in and reapplied for the remaining impacts left on the, as I say, for phase 3, which is on the pictures on the screen. That is the area in red, which is left right now. Nothing has changed from the original proposal. The same roadway layout, the same stormwater drainage, the same number of units, the same road length, width, everything. The alteration of terrain permit was extended a couple years ago, so that extension was granted through AOT, so that's current. As I say, just because the wetlands application had lapsed and all the proposed impacts hadn't been carried out, we had to reapply for it. Can you scroll down?
Yep.
If you don't
Tell me
mind,
when you
I'll say when. Keep going. I apologize. I don't remember what
You know
number.
what page number it is.
I don't. I was just gonna say I don't remember what page number it is. I apologize. Go up, please, if you don't mind. One more. Yes, perfect. It just takes a little bit for the red color to come on. So on
Page
this
is that?
screen, if you can see it, I don't know if you need to. I think
What
you all
page
have
is that, Jim?
screens.
It's page 10.
Page 10.
Thank you.
Sorry.
The area in red, as I noted, is phase 3. These are the remaining impacts to be carried out. So as I say, it's all the same layout. Everything is identical to what was proposed originally back in 2014. The Conservation Commission supported it, I guess, for lack of a better term. Originally, we had gone through the whole process. So the impacts that are remaining, I'm gonna try this thing again. Is there a way for me to press this button without shrinking the screen?
So the top button, if
Got
you
it.
hold it in,
Yeah,
that circle will appear, and you can zoom it, you can highlight an area.
try it again. It's a short agenda, we get time, right? Okay. I don't know, I can look at my plans. Is there a way for me to, can you zoom in?
I can.
Is that possible? Or this is a collaborative effort here. Amy, I appreciate it. Perfect. That one we can work with. All right, so there's actually 4 remaining impacts. The ones that you can see on here, it's essentially 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm gonna do this thing again. Impact area 4 is right here. It shows down here, but you don't have to move the screen at all. I have the square footage numbers that are here. So this is actually impact area 4. Again, as I say, the road layout is entirely the same as was originally proposed. Impact area 4 is for 110 square feet, right where that little cursor thing is in the middle. That's just a little bump out finger. Oh, and as a little backup, I did go out a few weeks ago and walked the entire length of road, verified the wetland impacts for the impact areas that were there before, and nothing has changed. The wetlands haven't gotten bigger, they haven't gotten smaller, but they haven't gotten bigger, so none of that has changed. The original delineation was done in like 2013, 14-ish. So obviously with the Wetlands Bureau, any delineation over 5 years old has to be verified and rechecked, and so that, I did carry that out too as part of the process here for the redo. Again, this is impact area 4, that's 110 square feet. Impact area 5 is this one up here, and that's just for the edge of the grading associated with, that's 2,220 square feet. Impact area 6, which is pointing to this right here, again, it's just a little nub of the wetland point that comes out. The old farm road farm path comes through right through here. There's a break between the stone wall, and there's the old farm cart path cuts right through there. So this, again, is impact area 6. That is 250 square feet, sorry, right there. And then the original stream crossing is the same proposal as before. This is a tier 1 stream crossing. The drainage area, it's like 40 acres or something like that, very, very small. It really comes from the area up here on the right-hand side. As you know, going up Perkins from the north to the south, it comes up, kind of plateaus, levels off, and then drops again on the far southern side. So very, very small drainage area that comes into this. In terms of the current stream crossing standards we have, excuse me, this is still only a tier 1. So they're meeting the requirements of the tier 1 crossing. With the original design, it still meets all that, so we don't have to change any of that. So with that, it is 1,290 square feet of impact, and they're going to be putting in a 78-foot long, 1 foot by 2 foot box culvert to allow the water to continue to flow there. There was certainly water flowing through it now because we got all that rain, but then even as of last week when we had a fairly dry spring so far, all the snow melted, the rains had stopped, there was still water flowing through that. So it is intermittent, it does dry out, so those are the impacts associated with that. That's really it. I don't know if you have any questions, if you need any more information on it. Some of you may have been part of the original process.
I don't know whether you were there or not, but I remember that
I remember walking that.
that bridge and culvert too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, well, that's what I say, you know, some of us
Yeah.
were part of it the first time, so, and there's some, you know, new faces now too, so. But as I say, it's a fairly typical process when a permit lapses. If none of the work is done, then obviously we go back in for all of the work. If some of it was done, but not all of it was carried out, which it happens from time to time, then we just go in for the remaining portion of work that's there. And that remaining square footage that we have left out of this is 3,770 square feet total based on those 4 impact areas that I had noted. So, as I say, everything is the same. The plans are still the same. They didn't have to update anything because none of the plans have changed. And it's still all pertinent to what's being proposed right now.
So these are wetland impacts.
Correct.
What about buffer impacts?
There are buffer impacts associated with it. I can look at that in the plans. I can
Oh,
pull
there's
that
something
up.
on the right side of that. plan.
Yeah, it is on the plans. I can pull this apart and find it.
It's just on the right of that.
Can you,
It's
Amy,
right on
just
the
Yeah,
slide
maybe
it
if you
little bit
scroll a
so
little bit, I
we-
think it's, if you pull it to the left, if possible, there is a table on the right-hand side.
The other left.
The other way, yeah. Yep, there it is, thank you. And maybe scrolling a little bit please, if you
Go
could.
where?
Yeah. So this way it shows the buffer impact. Yep, the bottom portion, if you don't mind, Amy, if you could zoom in just a little bit on the bottom right.
Now I've lost it. Oh, there. There we go.
And this again is for the total buffer impact for the whole project. And remember that phases 1 and 2 have been completed. So there's remaining buffer impacts to be
So is
considered.
buffer impact 4 occur on wetland 4? Because you had 7 wetlands and only 4 buffer impacts.
No, it's for a different, it is on the plan. We would just have to ask that it just scroll out and find those areas. They are all on there and they're all pinpointed. It's just, they're all called out.
So, excuse me for asking again, but does wetland impact 4 associated?
No, I'm sorry. I understood your question. It was just, Amy, if you don't mind, if you can scroll out. It is on there. As I say, the buffer impacts are called out. It's just a matter, it may be on the next plan down. I know it's on there. But it also may not. No, I'm sorry. You'll have to scroll back up. Yeah, I'm sorry.
There they go.
That's, I believe that should be
What
it.
is that? What page is
Page
it?
9.
Oh, the other direction.
Yeah, come up.
Do you remember which page it's on?
Don't.
You had it there,
I think it's that one right there. Yeah.
right there.
I just can't see anything. But I can.
Is
Go up
buffer
and-
restoration the same as buffer impact?
No, there were some original components of it where there was some restoration, some mitigation areas to be created, which are part of this portion of it that we're going to be carrying out.
That's not helpful. Stream
So we haven't found them yet.
I don't think
No,
so.
I apologize. I don't recall what plan sheet they're on. I was thinking more in terms of the direct wetland impacts.
Well, I think, are you leaning to the question is why is there, would there be a need for a conditional use permit? Or has that already been eliminated in the first plan?
Do our conditional use permits expire at the same schedule as a wetland permit?
I don't believe so, but I would have to check.
So I can go up and look. That is the buffer impact plan that's right there if you want. I certainly can't read it from here. But in order to, I was gonna say we could have it as the one plan, but if Amy doesn't mind zooming in, the buffer impacts are associated with each
Is that 18?
area.
13.
I clearly can't see.
I can't either.
I'm not sure which area buffer impact
Yeah,
4 is.
it'd be down on the bottom right. Yeah, that shows, and those are the impact areas. It's just the buffer impacts are pointing towards them. So you can see, we can start at the crossing. That shows the 2 different areas for the buffer impacts, which is approximately 11,000 square feet of buffer coming in and going out for that road access coming through. And then the other ones are the bottom of the arrows, of course. Yeah. Yep. And so there's maybe another 3,000 or so square feet of buffer impacts. Again, for the buffer impact where it says 1690, that area is for the most part done. We're talking about phase 3, which is from the buffer impact 1670 on over to the right of the plan, which would be south on it. Those are the remaining buffer impacts to be carried out through that. So a rough number would be probably, I'm just very approximate without trying to do the math in my head, 15,000 square feet, because between the 2 buffer impacts on the right-hand side of the plan, you're looking at about 11, and then maybe another 25 or 3,000 or so, approximate, so I was leaning towards maybe 14,000 square foot of remaining buffer impacts for phase 3, which is the last phase of the project to be carried out.
And basically, this is slope grading, right?
For the road coming in, yes, where buffer
The
impact
buffer.
5780 is, yep.
Yeah.
And for all of it, yes. I mean, some of them are direct impacts, you know, for obviously for the road and or for grading, as you say. It's for work associated with the road coming through. Certainly for the stream crossing, because it comes down fairly sharply off of Perkins Road into the site, and then it curves around, so it's,
So that drainage continues south of your property?
it starts on the south side, the right-hand side of the plan, and flows through the middle of the site, south to north, down off the property to where the hotel is. I'm not entirely sure what it does down there, once it gets off-site, but yeah, that's just an intermittent stream that flows through the wooded shrub wetlands throughout the site. And again, the impact on the left-hand side of the plan has already been carried out. It's the remaining one on the right-hand side that is the last phase for this, for the access coming in.
So I noticed in the permit application that there was two boxes. One said, have you reduced road width? And the answer was yes. And then another one was, are you using bridges instead of culverts? And the answer was yes. But it's not clear to me whether that was referring to, you know, previous work or what. But I don't think, it's all culvert here. There's no bridges, right?
There, it is gonna be a culvert for the phase 3. There's gonna be a,
Right.
One
But I
by
mean,
2 foot
even-
box
even in the
culvert.
urban, in phases 1 and 2, there's no bridges, it's all culvert, right?
right, it's not culverted in the sense where it's a pipe. It's an open
Yeah,
box, so it's natural material on the bottom, so the water just flows through on natural substrate. It's not gonna be put into like a 12-inch concrete or, you know,
right.
HDPE pipe, so it is culvert in the definition of it, but it's an open culvert.
Has this application gone to DES yet?
Yes. Yep, they're reviewing it.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not a real concern for me at least, but I'm wondering if they'll catch that. When we first were out on this property, I remember our main concern was wildlife connectivity coming down through that draw. 78 feet is the length of that culvert?
Yes.
Is a turtle likely to hitch up his little socks and enter that long of a length?
You'd have to ask the turtles. We are working with Fish and Game on it. The original Natural Heritage Bureau report we had in 2014 had no hits. We had to re-up it because obviously it expired. There were turtle hits. It's in the application. They came up, so we are working with Fish and Game on that. We're doing the coordination with them. So that's part of the process for it. You know, we do have an open structure. We had worked that out before with EPA at the time, with Mark Kern when he was with EPA before he retired. So we did do that open as opposed to just a culvert or something like that, just a standard pipe culvert. So there is through connectivity, but again,
2 feet wide and 1 foot high, that's the orientation?
yeah. But as I say, we're working with Fish and Game on it anyway through the coordination process, through their new rule, so if they have any feedback on it, then we can work with them on that.
And remind me, because I think this is what I remember, that the elderly housing is like a totally different project, and it's not part of this project, or is it part of this project?
No, I don't believe so. It's not,
What was the question?
Oh, is the elderly, I just feel like I remember that the elderly project was something else.
Yeah, my name is Carl Dubay, and I was involved in the original permitting and everything. We had pre-planned for elderly housing in those empty sections as we annotated there. We actually did all the sewer calculations and drainage and water supply and access and everything so that you wouldn't have any additional impacts. So all those utility infrastructure, all that stuff was already pre-done for this and pre-approved. But, you know, we did not go to the planning board for any new development. And then, so we're almost done with this construction. Simon and his wife own the project now. They're sitting in the back there. And they'd like to move forward with the last phase. They're working with NIFA, this is inclusionary housing. And it's the last phase, so it's the last few buildings, the last 3 buildings on the site. We haven't changed anything. But we would love to go before the boards again and do something there. All the zoning has changed since then, so, you know, we don't know what the town would like to have there, if it would be elderly or something different, or more inclusionary housing, or tiny houses, or assisted living, or, you know, whatever. It's really probably what the town would like to see. I think assisted living is still allowed in the zone, but I think everything else has been pretty much stripped out. But the overall design, everything, the impacts, as
Good to
Luke
know.
mentioned, they're all the
Thank
same. No changes. It was all previously, you know, approved. We worked really hard with the town on this design, as well as EPA. The buffer data is all shown in there, and EPA wanted us to show their buffers, and so there were state buffers, federal buffers, local buffers. We had all that in there, and it's all grown in nicely, just like we said it would, on the other construction that we've already done. So, you know, the critters, they all go all the way through here. They go up on the road and back over again, and I think EPA, I think they were talking about that the pipes were okay. They were fine with that as long as we had side slopes that were vegetated and coming up and over. And the mitigation plans are still in there, obviously, to be finished. And that's really about it.
Are you gonna be required to mow the side slopes on your maintenance? plan?
No, I think they would only do the minimum amount of maintenance and let them grow in. So it's more of a meadow thing where you can hack it down, you know, once or twice a year. But if you go out there now, there's only minimal mowing, only for the sidewalk that's out there. There's a curvy linear sidewalk that we put in alongside the road, parallel to the road. But all those slopes and everything have been all grown in, and you never know the difference. You know, it's all naturalized and everything.
I think our only comment I would like to see in there is that we urge the planning board to follow the recommendations of Fish and Game regarding the crossings.
I would make a motion that we recommend to DES that we approve this renewal of the wetlands permit with Mike's comments.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I
Aye. Opposed?
voted and I shouldn't
Oh,
have, sorry.
opposed, abstain? Okay, motion passed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to?
Well, you know, you need to-
Mike,
that's what I was
vote
counting
for
it.
Susan?
Susan,
Oh, Susan's not here.
That's right.
Oh, so
Good for you. Sure.
Mike Speltz can vote for Susan Mallon.
All right.
I didn't have to bring
Oh,
my
see, I was sitting
I
here
withdraw my
being impressed that we were all finally here at once.
Thank you.
I withdraw my worry about the egg containers. It's not here.
yeah, I walked in, I said, I didn't bring the egg containers back. They're not that hard to
I'm
carry
still
back and
working
forth.
on my last dozen.
Yeah, me too. Because I had a few before that, but I knew wasn't sure when I was gonna get more.
Ready?
There.
Ooh, what we got here?
Actually, let's go to sheet 4 or something like that. The overall.
Okay, let me,
Well, these are
And the
nice
other
plants. What are we doing here? This is very nice.
There you go.
These are not on your computer because they were given to me late, so you'll have to look at the big screens for these.
Tell me when you're ready. Madam
Oh,
Chair?
good. Oh, sorry.
All set. My name is Jeffrey Bremen with Meisner Brem Corporation. We're the engineers for Winnie Estates. You've seen me twice already, and this is the third time. It's all the same issues. So kind of like Luke saying over, we're not going back 10 years like he is, but last few months. So this is Winnie Estates here. Oh, it's the top one, right? There it is.
Yep.
So there's Winnie Estates here. It's a 25-acre project. It's an R3 zone. I'm bringing you back in time, and there's 21 lots being proposed. And the issue that we're talking to you, and no work in the wetland at all for the project. However, you may recall on this section over here, there's an existing driveway that served the existing house. And you guys asked us if we could remove the driveway, remove the culvert, and reconnect the two wetland lines on each side here. And before we leave this plan, just know that AOT requires no more than 5 acres of construction at a time, because they don't want erosion control. So this is in 2 phases, and you see this is phase 1, including what we're going to talk about in a minute, and the roadway. And then phase 2 is everything else. So these are the lines right here. There's these 3 lots, these 2 lots, the work we're going to talk about here, and the roadway is all in phase 1. All right, that's all in that. Now we're going to zoom up real close on here from 100 scale to 10 scale. So we're going to go 10 times. There we go. So there's in the middle of my circle, that'll be the driveway where the hand is, going up to the house, and you can see the house is right just to the left of this. And we're going to rip up that driveway, rip up that culvert, and we had talked about doing it as a second phase, and you didn't have a problem with it. That was the meeting that I think I came here in February. But staff and the planning board would like to have everything all at once, even though we had this on a plan. And at the time, part of the reasons why we wanted to do it in 2 parts, 2 phases, has to do with the project, the fact that this is really unrelated to the project. It provides real good access for construction, but the planning board wants to have it all at once. And the other thing was Luke Hurley, who you just saw, is our consultant on this. And at the time, in period of time when we were doing these plans, he was moving from one employment to another, and he had plenty to do on the 2 jobs as he's leaving one employment, going to another employment. And we just didn't think this was crucial enough for him at the time to do the replication plan and so forth. So we kind of punted it, and now we're back because planning and staff don't want us to punt it. No problem. We're just here now going for the conditional use permit. So this is a formal request for the work that we've always talked about, which is not, it's related to the subdivision because it's part of the land, but it's not required for the subdivision. So back to this. So this area here is the actual dry upland that we're going to remove the driveway, remove the culvert, and restore that. And there's a planting plan that Luke prepared over here. Plants are shown. And I can't remember what they are, but a speckled alder, some blueberry, and something else.
Winterberry.
Thank you, Winterberry. And they're planted throughout. And then the conditional use permit for work, taking this part of the driveway off and this part of the driveway off. And we included everything, that whole area. So the total area, because you're going to ask me the question, the upper one is 2,384 square feet. The lower one is 34 square feet for a total of 5,818 square feet. And the restoration is 2,090 square feet. And so that's our request. Planning board is meeting May 10th. I think it's May 10th. And we're hoping to get your recommendation for approval. And staff doesn't have any issues with this at all, other than they want it done before we go forward. That's all. Do you know, will the Army Corps get credit for the restoration? You know, they have their no net loss stuff that they have to document. And but I don't know if they'll glom onto this as a restoration, do you know?
I don't know. It's obviously upland that's gonna turn into wetland, so you get a net gain in this situation of wetland.
I would, for one, just appreciate your following our lead here and planning this out, and I hope we can support it.
Yeah, I think I missed that meeting, because I looked at this and I said, this is really good.
Right.
So, yeah, thank you very much.
Just so you know, I expect this meeting to go well because it's positive for ecology.
I know,
And I don't get many of these, you know, I'm always the other way, so I'm kind of looking forward to tonight's meeting.
and I was at the planning board meeting, and they just didn't comprehend what was going on here. I just don't think they understood why this was like an after, that it would be done after. They just,
They didn't, and you saw me then trying to, I mean, we had,
yeah.
it was a
did
tough
not
meeting.
compute. It
It was
just,
one of my worst meetings, so hopefully this will be the opposite.
Well, in that case, I would recommend that I would move that we recommend to the planning board that they accept this conditional use permit. Isn't that what we're doing? Or the restoration plan?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I'll second that.
okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion passed.
Thank you very much. I'm leaving the clicker here, Ethan.
Thank you. You too.
And then what do I just email you saying that?
No, you have the conditional use permit form is the
You
one,
logged all the Wallace Farm one on that.
that's all right.
I didn't have a Wallace Farm. Okay, so the Wallace Farm one is the
The
email.
Wallace Farm was a wetland permit, not a
Right.
conditional use permit, and you usually email DES for the
Yes.
wetland permit stuff. I can print you another form afterwards, and you can write it up real quick if you want.
You want to do your thing?
Can you pull up the GIS of the Max parcel? And I'm not sure, Madam Chair, if you want to say anything to tee this up, or if you want me to just get right into it.
Other than, it was discussed last night at the town council meeting, emphasis on the 5 acres that would be town, and we're just now kind of reviewing the conservation section, but it all pertains to the same lease. So Mike got details on that.
Exactly. So let me go back to last, 2 summers ago, actually. And by the way, Mike Malaguti, I'm the town manager. But I also represented the town when we were working to acquire and conserve this property. It was a big effort, a big win for the town, based on how developable this land was. And so that's sort of the beginning point of this journey. This is the front 5 acres. So as part of this transaction, the parcel was subdivided. The front 5 acres are held by the town council. They're unencumbered by any kind of conservation, open space restriction, what have you. The rear 21 acres roughly are held under the management and control of the Conservation Commission under RSA 36A. And it's important to note, I think, that that was, so the funding mechanism for the transaction was partially the town's land acquisition fund, the Conservation Commission's land acquisition fund, but also, I believe, Mike, it was drinking and groundwater trust fund money to preserve at least one important wellhead protection area that centers on this parcel. There are a number of restrictions burdening the back area. There are deed restrictions contained in the deed that we got from Moose Hill Orchards, then Andy Mack. There are restrictions that are attached to the town's management and control under 36A for conservation. And, you know, it's pretty tightly controlled. As we were, you know, as with many of these transactions, you've been dealing with a Lithia Springs transaction recently. These take a lot of time to ripen to the point where you can actually close on the deal. And so, you know, pretty much as we were getting towards the end of this process, Andy Mack sold the farm. We didn't see that coming. It was sort of news to us. And we got an inquiry about whether this parcel was part of that transaction, that separate transaction. It was not. It was already, fortunately, under contract with the town. And so we had to, you know, make sure that it was not, you know, inadvertently conveyed by Andy Mack during the transaction. We closed in the middle of June, I believe it was, of '21. So mid-season. Max had been maintaining the orchard to that point. But he was exiting stage left, and we needed somebody, you know, the town not being in the apple growing business, not having that expertise or equipment or pesticide license, what have you, needed somebody to take care of the orchard. And we came to terms with Andy's successor, Kyle Christensen, for that short year, so between June when we closed and I think Thanksgiving Day when the lease expired, maintain the parcel in its then current condition, take whatever profits could be generated from the UPIC and from whatever other commercial activity was taking place there for his own account, and in exchange for all of that, pay rent of $1 to the town. Because really the scenario that we didn't want was, and I had discussions, Deb, with you about how, you know, how quickly things can go sideways with respect to fruit trees if they're not maintained, particularly after periods of rain, humidity, et cetera. So we were happy to get that under agreement for that short season. There were discussions that then took place following the expiration of that lease and the beginning of the next growing season. Mr. Christensen was looking for a longer-term lease, as you might expect. However, at that time, the Conservation Commission and the Town Council were not comfortable entering into any kind of a longer-term lease. And in fact, what happened was, and this is fairly important, I think, as a process point, there was a public solicitation. And so at the end of December of '21, the town solicited interest for a lease of this parcel. We indicated that we were looking for a lessee who would maintain the property as an apple orchard and make other permitted agricultural use of the property, and then follow the model that we had with Mr. Christensen for that first short season. All revenue generated from the property will be the lessee's. Nominal rent of $1 a year is anticipated in exchange for maintaining the orchard. And we got, you know, some pretty healthy interest. What we got was 12 separate applicants, one of which was Moose Hill Orchards, and a lot of good ideas, a lot of good innovative thinking there, but what we felt was that really the only entity with any apple growing experience whatsoever and with the ability to economically maintain this orchard, who had applied for this lease back at that time, was Moose Hill Orchards. But as I said, the council and the Conservation Commission wanted to see how it went with Mr. Christensen. It's no secret that there had been conflict over public access to the orchards. Andy Mack granted broad public access to the orchards, and the community has become accustomed to that. And I think that was, having been involved in these discussions, that was part of the reason, that was a big part of the reason why the council and the Conservation Commission decided to take it in another year in terms of the increment. That lease was approved by the town council for the front portion and by the Conservation Commission for the rear portion. And it expired on Thanksgiving Day of last year. And so from Thanksgiving Day until now, there has not been a lessee for that property. There has been minimal contact that I have had with Andy Mack's successor. There was an email that I got at the beginning of March asking what the status was. And I received a phone call from his lawyer late last week, which I returned yesterday afternoon because I was out of town. There have been discussions that have been taking place with at the town council level and more recently involving representatives of the Conservation Commission with Sunnycrest Farm. Sunnycrest Farm obviously is one of the apple growers in town. It's the Hicks family. They've been here since 1943. And I think, I'll just tell you what happened. Last night, the council voted to lease the front 5 acres to Sunnycrest for a period of up to 5 years with the option for renewal. The front parcel is a little bit different from the rear parcel in that Sunnycrest is looking for as long a term as possible because there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done in the orchard. And there's a significant investment that whoever leases this will need to make in the orchard. The front parcel, having been acquired for municipal purposes, in anticipation someday, potentially, of needing it for a town facility, a school district office, what have you, that lease has an out on reasonable notice. But there, like I said, there are no immediate or even really conceptual plans to build it. So for the time being, the town council wants that preserved. We set out to give the town council and the Conservation Commission options when it comes to securing a longer-term arrangement. And I think we've done that in the form of either Mr. Christensen or Sunnycrest Farm. I can tell you that the Hickses are very eager, and their seasonal help is here and can mobilize pretty quickly to do a heavy pruning and other work that really needs to be done out there post-haste. We've been negotiating the terms of a possible lease with the Hicks family, and that includes a term of, and Amy, I think you have that in a Word document there, if you don't mind pulling it up. And I actually just got this back from their lawyer today. A term of 20 years, nominal rent of $1, entitlement to the profits by the lessee. Importantly, an obligation to maintain the apple trees or replace them if they should become diseased or damaged. As I said, as I believe I said, is a 20-year term, and the Conservation Commission has the authority to grant that kind of a lease under 36A. We've gotten that confirmation from legal counsel. And so in response to that comment there about a representation about the town's ability to enter into that long of a term, I already have that from counsel. A couple of things to bear, I guess that I would be looking for input on. There is a desire potentially to, and Mike, you and I have discussed this, I'd be curious for your explanation of this, but, you know, the lease is subject to the terms of the conservation easement deed by which the town acquired title. It has restrictions in it requiring the parcel to continue to be used as open space, but allowing it as well for agricultural use. And so it's pretty clear that apple growing is agricultural use. I think there's a desire to expand potentially the kinds of crops that are grown on this parcel. And there is, I think, a legitimate need for, because it's of its distance from Sunnycrest Farms' central operation, perhaps a structure to enclose a tractor and things along those lines. Perhaps the desire for a greenhouse somewhere on the property. Those are some of the discussions that we've had. And I think that the lease is probably broad enough to allow the Conservation Commission to interpret what's permissible there and what isn't permissible. We're looking to move quickly on this for the reason that I mentioned, which is that really there's some work that needs to be done that frankly hasn't been done. And we're getting into the warmer weather and the more humid weather. And so I'm here to brief you on how we got here and answer any questions that you might have.
To me, this is a marriage made in heaven. Sunnycrest is, you know, for coming nigh onto a century, you know, been one of the premier apple orchards in town. This is a very low-risk transaction. We know them, we know how they manage. We know they're good at what they do. And we've got two sets of restrictions. The key one being in the lease is that, hey, there's a conservation easement on this property and you have to abide by the conservation easement, which really has all the protections in it that you know, I think we need. But we've gone beyond that in the lease to protect sort of the cultural value, you know, keep these apple trees, you know, replace them, allow public access. So to me, this is, I think it's wonderful that Sunnycrest has stepped up to take advantage of this opportunity, and I would urge us to recommend that the council sign I guess the council, would they sign our lease, or would we?
I think it would be me or somebody
Yeah.
representing the council.
Yeah, so, say recommend that the town manager sign the lease on behalf of the Conservation Commission.
I just want to be sure that we understand all those things that can be done. And there was something else you said that I just went out of my head. That just blanked on it. Whether we tell them to do more than, whether we limit them in some fashion that they really need, it's the dogs, the public access. Dogs in the orchard, they have been doing a really good job of limiting dogs on their Sunnycrest property. And there are reasons for that, the reasons being that the food and drug people don't want animals and apples mixing. And, you know, it's all well and good that people say they have their dogs under control, and it's all well and good to say probably there's nothing going to happen anyway. But I know that the Hicks family is very cautious about that. So I don't want them to be in a situation where they feel they have to be less than cautious with this parcel.
There's a provision in the lease that really addresses that, and I don't know if you
I-
can find it.
I saw
Yeah,
that, and
so-
I wanted to be sure it's really solid.
Yeah, so and it's been a while, so a couple things. One is that you're exactly right, which is, you know, you had Andy Mack, who was over here in terms of public access, really not regulating anything. You know, you've got the current owner who's over here, and then you've got Sunnycrest, which I think is in the middle. And the Hickses have been straightforward with us, you know, saying, we don't allow dogs in the orchards either. But they seem to be doing it in a way that doesn't engender public outcry. So whatever they're doing in that regard, it seems to be working. As far as what the legal provisions are in this lease, I believe, Mike, they really just restate what all of the other conservation easement deeds protecting the rest of Max Apple's state as far as public access. It's that kind of canned language that you see in each of the deeds as the town acquires those conservation easement interests. With the exception of, there is a provision that says, you know, meaningful public access is a material condition of the lease. Ultimately, one, I don't think there's gonna be any daylight between the Conservation Commission and the Hicks family on how to strike that balance. But if there is, you know, the body that has the interpretive authority on behalf of the town is the Conservation Commission. The way these things should work is there should be a negotiation, a give and take, and I don't see that changing. But it's certainly something that, yeah, I think that if you're looking for, you know, where the sticking points potentially could be at some future point, public access is one of those things. You know, it is what I see, you know, my window, I'm fortunate enough that my window overlooks the orchard, and I see people walking the perimeter all season, you know, at all different times of day. There's some distance, I think, between the rows of trees. When I see people, you know, I also see people going up and down the rows of trees, which I think is where some of the concern arises. So I do think that there's an opportunity to continue to grant meaningful pedestrian access, you know, with or without dogs. I think reasonable people can disagree about that, and I think that the Conservation Commission can stake out its turf on that if it needs to. But I think that, you know, we should be able to continue to grant that kind of access, which is one of the, I believe, one of the reasons the town did the transaction in the first place, and still not run afoul of the new food safety rules.
The key words are, I think, I won't get this exactly right, but at reasonable times and places.
Right.
And-
Okay.
And in addition, there are other words that
There it is.
talk about
Yep.
not interfering with agricultural operations.
Yeah, it's, so Amy's found it right there. It says, lessee shall permit pedestrian public access onto the property at all reasonable times, dates, and seasons which will not impair the lessee's ability to use the property for agricultural purposes. It is acknowledged that meaningful public access is a material condition of this lease agreement. So I think that, you know, defining trail areas, instead of just kind of wherever you know, whichever row you want to walk down today is certainly would make sense. I think that, you know, there's wisdom in that. But, yeah, I mean, if people are tracking dog poop through the orchard, particularly during the growing season, I think that's a big problem, and I think it can be prohibited.
And if we somehow can establish a well-marked trail around the perimeter, I think that would,
You know, that's something they could do with mowing too.
exactly.
Yeah, it's actually on the trails map.
Yeah, there is a,
Yeah,
there is a
okay.
designated path around the outer perimeter of the site.
Yeah. But maybe, you know, it just needs some signage to
Actually, there's
state
signs
that.
there too.
Well,
just
to
ignore them.
state that, you know,
There
Keep the
are
dogs on
signs,
the
there's
trail.
nothing to
Oh,
date,
yeah, right.
there's nothing there to date that asks dog walkers to stay to the perimeter,
Yeah.
or something to that
I think
effect.
that's,
Right.
if we just,
And I think if that were there, that would be fine. And I think
Yeah.
most people would abide by it.
And, you know, worst comes to worst, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
is, you know,
It's a slightly different topic.
there are default provisions, and if somebody's, you know, breaching the lease, it's a long term, obviously, but there are protections for the town if the thing just goes completely sideways, and And, you know, I think those are fairly robust.
And Danny Hicks is super excited about
The
doing this.
young Dan,
Yeah.
well, yeah, Dan the fourth, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super excited. I mean, he's already, I can see the wheels just turning. I think he's gonna do some creative things.
So that leads me, I don't know where the qualification that they keep those, every single apple tree the way it was in the orchard, exactly the way it was. I think that's kind of unrealistic. I mean, the trees are not designed to live forever by
Right.
any manner or means. And I don't know where that came from, because usually we've had in our easements that, you know, any agricultural use, say he wanted to cut down, he runs out of space, he wants to, really more blueberries are more important than apples to his business. I don't understand why, is it the town council that's on this, or what?
I think it was sort of organic. You know, recall that when we had to call the audible at the last minute when this got sold out from, not from under us, but it got sold like quite unexpectedly. And Andy is a known quantity. His successor was not. I think there was a fear about what could happen while the orchard was under the control of somebody who we just didn't know from Adam. And so, you know, that language is retained. However, it does contemplate cooperation between the Conservation Commission and the lessee in terms of what is actually how the trees are managed. Because my understanding is, and I don't know anything about this, but it's been told that it's an old orchard, that, you know, the trees maybe aren't in the best condition right now, and eventually, yeah, they die, and or they, you know, you need to go in a different direction. So
That's productive.
I think that we could certainly, I mean, we could certainly soften the language. Understand that, as you point out, in the other deeds that protect the rest of Max, my understanding is you could bulldoze the orchards and plant wheat. So you can't do that here. We've seen what happens when, you know, apple trees get cut down, even if they're not productive. People, you know, have an attachment to them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a fair point. Yeah, I think that, let's put it this way. They're not objecting to it at this point in time. But yeah, I could envision it, you know, becoming something that needs to evolve.
Don't I remember that there is an amendment provision in here?
I think there is. And whether there is or is not, I mean,
You always have the ability to amend
you always have the ability to amend a contract.
And there is some justification, I think, because we sold it, I think, to the voting public, to the town council, and to the grant makers, that this was not just an apple orchard, this was Londonderry's heritage. And, you know, it sits on the Apple Way. So I think it's legitimate to try to keep the apples that are there, or, you know, replaced if they get disease or damage. If it comes to the point where that's just not an economical thing to do, then we have the ability, you know, to, you know, work
Have
with
a discussion, yeah.
Nixon and I think, you know, reasonable people all around are gonna agree to do what's right. So I think we'll be all right.
Well, there are a number of open patches in it now that Andy created for pumpkin patches. There haven't been pumpkins there for a couple of years. And then that whole, like, the eastern third
Right.
has nothing in it.
Right, and the reason for that is that soils aren't as good there, but, you know, there's probably things that could be done there.
Oh, there was a large pumpkin patch on that whole stretch beside the orchard.
Right.
It
But
stopped.
it didn't go all the way up the hill.
No, it didn't. In fact, it didn't go through the valley. It stopped up on the slope.
Right, 'cause it's wet.
Yeah, you can see it there. That triangle in the corner,
Oh.
at least in the last 30 years, has never had anything on it.
Well, it was mowed for hay for a while, but
Was
then
it?
it got
Okay.
taken over by Queen Anne's lace, which made it not good hay.
Well, there's a fair bit of ledge close to the border, on the eastern border. But yeah, you could, so. I would have no problem with giving them flexibility if something came up and we came to an agreement.
Yeah.
I'm mildly concerned that my motion not die for lack of a second.
Oh, I'll second it. I'm not sure I heard a motion, but I'll second it.
No, we weren't listening. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passed.
Thank you, everybody. I'll let the Hickses
Excellent.
know the good news.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent.
and I think not having to go through this every year
Yes,
is a plus.
yeah.
Are you taking off, Mike?
I can stay if you'd like.
Well, I just need a word.
Yeah, by all means.
I can be excused for just a second.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
You.
I have a couple of old business items
All right,
that just came up, but Mike already said no, probably. I got an email this afternoon from Paul Margolin saying that he's been in touch with Deb at Londonderry Times, and he's gonna meet with her Thursday night, I think, and they want to start up the articles again, maybe for a year. And he said, I know that the creative juices at the Conservation Commission for article writing aren't there. But I said, well, we have 2 new members. Maybe they would be interested in contributing
at least
something.
have good ideas.
And that's just what I have to report. So I think Lynn Miles wants to do something, solid waste, I think, I'm not sure. And he didn't mention Trailways, but, because they usually have done something.
Yeah,
but
and
I think-
Green Team is gonna try
Oh.
and do one a month as well.
Oh, okay. That would be sort of interspersed in the others?
Yeah, and more probably trending towards gardening
Oh,
and
yeah,
that kind
that's
of,
fine. So,
but, yeah, that'd be nice.
I'm just throwing that out.
We'll put our
But I'm thinking,
our
well, this is
thinking
what we've been
caps
doing.
on.
I'll tell him that there was nobody jumping into the fray at the meeting, so. And then I just wanted to share with you, I got another report, and actually the numbers for what kind of went in, so it's not really good. I didn't send it to Amy. I didn't get it sorted out until it was Saturday. And the point is, right now, we have available $1,051,000 in change. So that's taking everything out. That's taking another half for the signs, even though I didn't really quite understand where the $600 came from.
Well, that 600, it wasn't for signs, it was for something else. I don't know how it got labeled as signs,
Okay.
but I'll
But
find
then
it. It's in my book.
so there's probably bills that have been paid this month that I don't have. I mean, but the big ones I have written down, and I've subtracted them already. And then, once it gets to the end of the year, I'll try to more clearly explain the land use change tax. What's been happening is, instead of getting a total, and me understanding that this much money's in our account, it kind of comes in and goes out in different, our numbers are going, our money owed to the town of Londonderry has been taken out in like three bunches. And so the numbers don't match, they don't match the way I want them to match, let's put it that way. But the bottom line is, it does match, so that's all that matters. And I think at the end of the year, it'll be very clear what exactly went on this year. So, but that number is what we need to know about. That's it for me.
Yay. Anything else on old business?
Back to the Londonderry Times. So are they looking for someone like to write these articles?
Yes.
Because I would be interested in that.
Okay,
I
do
like
you
to
want
write.
ideas given to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
I
Yeah.
think I have a list.
Of ideas we came up with?
Of ideas we came up with. We've done things like, I did one on lawns, I did one, I didn't like doing this, I'm not a writer. Mike has done, historical things about the whole thing about conservation easements.
I did one on bittersweet.
Yeah. And we did, our retiree did animals, or did some animals, or, I can't remember her name, I'm blanking, can't remember her name.
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a whole, there's a lot of
I
things.
write a lot for work, so it would like flow well.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't have to be long either, so.
If you're doing the work, in addition to suggestions, feel free to come up with something yourself.
Yes.
Please,
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's been part, that's
Yeah,
part of the
and, you know,
challenge.
sometimes it's just something that happened, you know, in town that
Or if
sparked,
you
you know,
don't
we need
underst-
to tell people
Talk
about this.
If you don't understand something and look it up and find the answer, maybe somebody else needs to know the answer too.
Yeah, because even with this new, I think she's coming to
Source
speak
water, that's what I was thinking, the source water protection grant.
about
grant
the
and
septic system maintenance.
Yep,
Oh,
so.
I was gonna, I
that'll
was
be
gonna do
next
that one,
meeting.
and I never got it done.
Well, and, you know, was it DES has, Safe Septic Week or something, so we could time that to,
Well, and this goes into our public outreach for the grant that we got for the source water protection grant.
read.
So that can be part of our public outreach,
Yeah.
is writing an article about this and putting it in the Londonderry
And
Times.
there's good material on the DES site.
And we have a beautiful
septic
new report that's coming, that's
Yeah.
in draft and just about ready to be approved.
Yep,
So-
yeah, so that might be a
So
good
that's
one.
something you could reference in an article if people want to find it on
Yes,
the website?
yes, and we have Emily DeFranco coming next meeting
Right.
to do a presentation on this for you guys.
Great.
Nice,
So it sounds like a go.
yeah, we'll come up with stuff.
Okay.
Okay, new business monitoring. I sent out with the lease copy little maps that I just, all I did was like took an area of town and
Oh,
included anything we had that was close by so that we're not, like if we wanted to combine properties, we could do it pretty easily.
is that in here somewhere?
No,
No.
Oh, okay,
But,
because I thought,
but
it was in the email though.
there was,
Okay,
you
that's-
know, Camco, that was kind of a,
I don't think we've done that in,
well, we've had problems with that, so I think I'm interested in checking that out because they've been a little bit uncooperative with their back boundary. But when I printed the map of Camco, it came up with Lorden Commons. Are we responsible for monitoring the common land of Lorden Commons? It's showing as conservation,
It's open space.
yeah.
I don't know that we have an obligation to monitor it, but it would be,
Wouldn't hurt.
it wouldn't hurt, yeah, if we're out that way anyways.
All right. And then, you know, I was coming up with some that I'm pretty sure we've never done, like behind CVS. And then this one,
right.
right? And this one called Terrytown Realty, Buttrick Road. I don't recall ever,
That's really old.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we have done Walgreens though. But not recently.
Not while I've been on the commission.
Right, not for a good long while. And then we have Hannaford, Home Depot, Nevins, and then what's the story with Gilchrist? Do we, you know, is that still in
Oh.
play?
I don't think we ever,
Monitored that?
I don't think we took any responsibility for that because it wasn't conservation purchase.
Yeah.
No, because I remember, you know, Mike knew. monitored
I have a
it
whole lot,
because there
I
was
have to
so-
say, I have a whole lot of information on my computer that I haven't looked at in a long while,
Yeah.
that we might,
Well, kind of, that was my question. Do we need to do anything with that orchard property or the fact that it's kind of on its way out?
was there something with the neighbors at one point?
Yes,
There was,
that's why.
there was a problem with one of the
Yeah.
neighbors at one
Some,
point.
And I
the
don't know-
next, then a budding property had put an ATV
Encroachments.
course in there.
Oh. That's an encroachment.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I mean, who says that it's not back? You know what I mean? So these are properties that have had offenders. That, should we be checking?
Probably.
But that was my system for picking properties. I don't know if, we wanna start doing them. We're coming up on Black Friday.
I was just, that was right there in my head.
But I just ordered mosquito net hats.
For everybody?
I did. I got 6. They were $4.50 a piece. I was like, I didn't think it was right, so they may be a piece of crap when they come in the mail tomorrow, but, Amazon. But they, you know, you twist them and they fold up into a little poosh,
Oh, cool.
you know, so they're portable.
So you put them over a hat?
No, it comes
No,
with the hat.
It's got a hat in it.
It's a brim hat, and then the nets come down. They're beekeeper hats, they're calling them.
Oh, I have one
I
with a
don't care what you call
roll
it.
up right
$4.50.
here. It looks really stupid.
Yeah, that's the kind that Judy had that time.
Right,
Yeah.
because I wanted to ask you where you got yours, but then I was Amazon shopping and found these, and it's like, yeah,
Well, if it's for Conservation Commission, please put it into,
we could, yeah,
to,
because I mean, 6, whatever, it was cheap.
Yeah.
Wicked cheap. So I'll have them by 6 o'clock tomorrow. But knowing that we're coming up on black fly season, I thought that was probably a wise choice. So we could venture out and not be miserable.
Just gotta move fast.
Yeah. Well, and also it kind of makes me, are we better on the weekends? Do people want to go during the week? I don't care, you know, I'm super flexible. Does anybody else have a
well,
preference?
do we need to do a big group?
Not all of
twos-
them, but
twos
I
and-
just,
If it's not overly complex, I don't mind doing one by myself. I did most of Max.
yeah,
My days off are Sunday, Monday, so those are
okay.
good ones for me.
Some of it gets hard, and I've not been on any of these properties, but like the Walgreens easement looked like it had a lot of wet.
Oh, yeah. so
Yeah,
it's
I'm not
to get through.
real good at.
I'm not gonna swim.
I'm not gonna swim, and I don't do slash. I'm not good on
Don't
slash.
worry, the Beaver have changed that recently.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
Come
that,
down 102 and take a look at Walgreens, and you see all the birch trees that are down.
Oh, are they?
really?
Then it's very
So
wet.
many down. It's crazy. But that brings up a good point. What app can we use that would have all of these on there? That we could help us get around?
So we have an ArcGIS app that has the Conservation Commission maps on them, and there is a blue dot that follows you around as you go around it.
But
So we do have that,
even these,
yes,
not the recreational properties, but
correct,
all of these.
correct.
Yeah, the town maps won't do it, but the ArcGIS will, and you can also turn on the satellite view if we wanted to do it virtually. You can
Oh,
get fairly good resolution,
How recent are the satellites pictures?
just 2 years.
last spring.
Well, if you're using, if you're on MapGeo, we will have imagery from April 9th. We have new imagery for the town. I just
For
haven't.
this year, April 9th?
Yes, I just
Wow.
I haven't loaded it yet, but we just got the next round of flights that were flown on April 9th into access to them. I have to add them to MapGeo, so.
That would be really good for some of these. I mean, at least as a jumping off point.
Right.
You'll easily see things that aren't under trees. You know, things like anything out in the open, a structure, you'll see that
ATV trail.
ATV trail.
Right.
Again, as long as it's not under the trees.
Yeah.
Under the trees is tough.
So, what's my next step? Pick a day, or
Just come up with a list and let's
Just
pick
have-
away at them.
people choose one of these?
Yeah, if you want to do it as a group, fine.
Um,
Like I say,
I mean,
I'm
like,
happy to do one or two. I'm
it
gonna be
would take
crazy
a
busy
couple
for
people
May.
to do Camco. And my hesitation is I don't always know where I'm at, so,
Well, that's fixable. That part's fixable. I mean, And I was always gonna come and get, once I got a new phone, you were gonna put it on my phone. I had it on my old phone, and I never got, and then it was COVID, and then I just,
Right, then,
I'll be in to see you to get my phone fixed sometime. Can you do that, Amy?
Yes,
Thank you.
anytime.
It's clunky. I mean, you can access the town website when you're out there, and as Amy says, it'll show you approximately where you are on a blue
Yeah.
dot if you ask it to. And
But we need the bones.
I've used that to follow the edges sometimes.
It did stop working, that,
Oh, maybe that's,
It did,
Explorer
if you come
stopped
in,
working.
they have updated the app, so we just need to make sure we have the new one loaded on your phone and find the map within it. So we can, if you get a chance, stop in
well,
when
could
I'm
we
here.
would that be appropriate to do at a meeting, just we all do it?
Possibly, give me a chance to write up the instructions, so I can give you instructions on how to
Instead
do
of
it.
having to do
Yeah,
yeah, don't
all
do it 8
individuals,
times.
we could all like,
yep.
Do it
Yeah,
together.
So I'll work on writing up instructions on how to do
don't,
that for you.
yeah,
If
Don't
It's
you-
not something I do regularly, so I have to think about it and I have to
yeah, well,
play around
I
with
know
it. So
you're
let me write
also,
up the instructions on how to do it.
you're also really busy and
Yeah.
we understand that. All right,
No, this is the new imagery that we
Oh.
Oh,
just
my
got on
goodness.
April 9th. So, yeah.
Yeah, so if there's, in that one, if there was something questionable
Well,
going on, it'd be
we-
pretty easy to spot.
Yeah.
so is this
It's not our
better
hardest one.
quality than it
No,
was a year
no.
ago?
No, it's the same, it's about the same quality. It comes in all the same. We are on a subscription now with Nearmap, and so we get imagery twice a year.
wow.
Sometimes
Oh, that's
3 times a year, so
excellent.
we'll get a couple flights. I only put the spring flight onto MapGeo, just because it would just be too many layers
Oh,
of
sure.
imagery, and if you go to the fall flight, it's hard to see anything because it's leafed out. So this was the July one from last year. So,
So is it like 2-foot resolution?
yeah, it's 2.3 to 2.6, I think, are what the resolution
Wow.
guarantees are.
Absolutely amazing.
So, yeah, it's
Scary.
very nice.
Well, yeah, because I was talking to some people at Saving Special Places, and they were just astonished that we get it that we get annual, let alone twice a year.
So we were due for a new flight we typically did it every 5 years, and we were due for a new flight, and within the last 5 years, some companies have started the subscription, and they fly certain parts of the country regularly.
Wow.
And we actually have imagery for wherever they fly. We have access to their full database of images. So we can go all the way back to 2014 in the imagery with them. And we have access to all of it. So,
Speaking of Saving Special Places, ran into some people that it was good to run into. I had lunch with a woman who was teaching one of the classes on wolves. And she said, please call me, I want to give presentations. She wants to give talks, and her point that she wants to get across to people is, some folks are concerned, should we do a restoration of wolves in the state? And she says, we have them, they're here, but they're being shot because they look like coyotes. They are a smaller version of the wolf, and people are confusing them with coyotes, which has a year-round hunting. You can hunt them anytime.
Right.
And it kills me that that's true.
Right? And yet fox, you can only hunt, you can't hunt during their, what's it called, whelping, when they have the pups? Why are coyotes not allowed to have their babies? So that was one of her things. But she would love to
Oh,
come and give a presentation about
Sign
wolves
her
and
up.
coyotes. Yeah, that's what I thought. And I thought it would be nice to do it as a public education thing, not just for a meeting. Probably, I can't imagine more than this many people coming, but
that's, again, this is something that could have a follow-up article in the newspaper.
yeah,
because there's gonna
So-
be, I followed this a little bit, and the legislation a couple years ago, I wrote some people.
Oh,
But, there are people that just don't like coyotes.
and, you know, and I knew from other classes that I took, and she mentioned it again, that it's so foolish to shoot the coyotes, because the more you kill them, the more they breed. It just like is futile. But,
You know, I'm wondering, would it be a good idea to do a joint venture with the library and incorporate that in, you know, those evening
Thursday.
library things that they do?
maybe,
Because they're always looking for
Right.
stuff to do, and it's sort of a channel that, you know, people follow, so they,
Yeah.
why don't I start with contacting her and see what's her availability,
Because I think that
and
the library is probably not much different seating
There-
wise in that basement room. I've been
yeah,
into a couple.
it probably is about the same.
Yeah,
But they'd attract a
but they
different group.
attract more people, yeah.
Or a
Yeah.
different people.
yeah, right.
Well, we can, I'll coordinate with them and see, you know.
What they think. There, and the other thing I was gonna do, had some, this is before COVID, so I can't really remember, but I wanted to do something, and it was like months out before you could get somebody, you know, it was like 6 or 8 months kind
Yeah.
of thing. Their schedule is really pre-planned.
The libraries or?
The libraries.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which is okay.
Yeah, but it would be limiting if we wanted to do this sooner rather than later. It's worth calling.
Yeah, find out what her schedule is and see if I can coordinate it. All right. Another person I ran into, Heidi Holman. And I said, what's the story with the bunnies? And unfortunately, a lot of bad news. The development with like FW Web and UPS and those big things has really negatively impacted the population up there. And she says they're barely keeping their numbers, they're not growing their, you know, it's, when they have litters, it's just covering the losses. And they've not been having good success with controlled raising them in the zoos. And she said they finally had confirmation that they are crossing with the eastern cottontails. So it's sad. One thing that the bunny colony that was at Stonyfield Farm moved. They moved to the Merrill's orchard. So
Which part of it?
that part of it,
Really?
yes. So
Is that public information?
I don't know. But, and then just side things, Amanda Stone is retiring. And the gossip says that maybe Emma Toutine will take over for her, seeing as she's been kind of Amanda's sidekick. But I left it, Heidi says she wants to come and give us an update, and I left it up to her because she's.
Well, she's really into this new butterfly thing this summer.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, they're upping their counts on, but there's a lot of education online, because it's all full now, because they filled up with people.
Oh, cool.
And there was always one point count, North American Butterfly Association up in Wentworth, and now they're gonna try to be 6 this summer, then they're trying to train people to
Huh.
do butterflies. And she's really involved
Yeah.
in that.
Well, talking to her and finding out that the whole Rabitat thing is not working well, I guess my questions are, what do we do with that land? Do we get Charlie to create a plan for that? Do we just let it grow back? Do we do maintenance cuts? Because rabbits aren't the only thing that
Good
like that kind of
question,
habitat.
yeah.
You know,
And we've
that,
made the
the
effort.
birds
The
were the
birds.
first thing that we noticed after the first cut, is that we started seeing birds we hadn't seen in a while. So do we
Well, isn't there,
maintain for something other than the bunnies?
yeah, weren't there a couple of independent groups, you know, I can't remember now what their names were, they were some sort of wildlife federation or something,
Oh, the NWF.
that wanted to get involved
Gave us
with
the-
helping to maintain, you know, doing the 5-year cuts to maintain it as open.
Because obviously, I'm assuming the grant money that was creating this habitat is done, but we have a little bit of money from our cuts
Yeah.
that we could do something.
Well, that was one of the points,
Right.
too.
Seems
That
like
it would
a
be a
challenge if we're trying to
self-maintained.
maintain the existing ones is, I can't imagine there's any commercial value to anything taken out, whereas when they did
Right,
it the
we're
first
not
time, they
gonna
got a lot of lumber
make
out
a
of it.
profit, exactly.
You know, that's what at least one of the people from one of those groups, back when we did the first cut before we did it, and they were there talking about it, and they said that they actually owned one of the Tromposaurus machines.
Really?
You know, and they would be able to bring it in and renovate the cut every 5 years.
Yeah, well, maybe that's something Heidi will
She
know
might,
about.
yeah, I would think she would
I'm
know
sure she
something
would.
about that.
It would be good if she came down, and then we could just have a little roundtable discussion about, you know, what do you want us to do?
Yeah,
I
What-
mean, you know, one possibility is that this bad news means that we'll be the refuge, you know, and that it becomes more important than ever.
yeah, because she said that, you know, she was disappointed that we really couldn't train them to come to the Musquash or, you know, make that pathway
Right.
more attractive. And I have to confess that I've seen dead bunnies on the road, and I'm gonna assume they're eastern, just because
Yeah.
I want them to be eastern.
No,
and
there've been
not-
more rabbits in town than I've ever seen.
I
Yeah.
saw a lot last year. I haven't
I
seen it
s-
this year.
I've never seen them in my yard until this year. Oh, and just a side, we're out, you know, doing the butterfly garden in front of the kindergarten, and we were reseeding it, and I just found a bunny tail, just this little tail, just sitting there in the garden.
It happens.
And lots of bunny poop, so there, some bunnies are out there. And that's all I have for new business. Anybody else have new? We're gonna do a non-public. I don't know if you wanna do minutes first?
Get that done.
Are the minutes still what you sent out the other day, Amy?
They're the ones I sent out on yesterday.
I
sent
think
some out
I
yesterday.
know I just looked at it today, so I'm pretty sure I got that one. Line 30.
Line 30.
Line 30, I'm going the wrong direction.
Okay.
I think Jean was the one that said that, not me. I mean,
Okay.
my name is there, but previous, D. Levin said that another nearby parcel had been ruled unbuildable. I don't remember saying that. I think Jean said that. Because maybe I said it.
Oh, and I forgot to say names when people made motions
I
tonight.
got that.
Oh.
Because I take notes on that now.
Okay.
Jean, do you remember saying that?
I'm trying to review it right now to see
Okay.
if it jogs anything.
I know we were talking about, and we went back and forth with a couple comments. Because it was wet, it was weird, and it just, or I said, it was unbuilt, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
But that, I'm not sure I would have said it quite that way, but,
We can
you know, if
also
the
go back
machine
to the
says it,
recording.
if the machine said it, I probably did, but I just wanted to check.
yeah, I don't, it doesn't jog anything in my mind.
Okay, that was the problem I was having too.
You cut all the changes I had, so it's fine.
At 145, I was just thinking that it would be clearer if you said, I report that about $400 left in the line item budget. And then that's why Marge went on to say it could be used. It's just where it was left.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you do these minutes, Amy?
No, I did not. We have somebody else who's doing them off of the recording.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're more detailed than even Beth did.
Oh, I was
Right.
amazed.
I was
Yeah.
like, wowza. Yeah.
So if nobody has anything, I'd move to accept the minutes of April 11th as amended.
Can I clarify one thing? Do we need to change on line 30? Do we need to change it from your name?
I
to
guess
some-
not, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so we'll leave that
I,
one
I know
alone.
I said something, but I didn't
Okay.
remember saying, it just didn't sound like the way I would have said it, but that's okay. I could have mumbled.
Okay. Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Move to accept the minutes as amended. Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Aye. Was absent.
Okay. One abstain, motion passed. I would accept a motion to go into non-public session per 91A:3, Section 2D, for the purpose of discussing acquisition of property.
So move.
Seconded.
All in favor, roll call vote.
Aye, Tiffany Macarelli.
I, Gene Harrington.
I, Marge Bedoy.
I'm Mike Spells?
And Jim is supposed to say present?
Yeah.
Does that say present?
Yeah.
You can say, yeah.
Jim Leary, present. I, David Heafy.
I, Deb Levens.
I, Bob Maxwell.
Okay. Um,
Shall we,
We're in public
we
session.
need to make them,
Need a motion to recommend to the town council that they enter into a purchase and sale on the parcel discussed in the non-public session.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Couldn't have said it better myself,
Oh.
dude.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passed.
I believe you need to seal the non-public minutes in an open
In-
session.
Yeah, I think so too.
So you'll need
All
to.
right, so I'll make a motion now to seal the non-public minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else we need to? I think we're,
I'll make a motion, we
Ready.
adjourn.
whoa.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right.